Okay, today is Wednesday, September 12, 2018. This is the meeting of the Kubernetes CSI meeting, CSI implementation group. So we've got a handful of tasks left for 1.12 post code freeze. For the 1.12 tasks, most of them have been completed. We were waiting on figuring out what we're going to do next with the inline volume support, whether we're going to file an exception or not. On Monday, we decided not to do an exception for now. Unless something changes drastically in the next couple of days. Vlad, any updates on that?
No, I think we're just gonna keep going and get it in the next quarter.
Okay.
Like I said, we still have 2 PRs open, and progress is slow on those still.
Yeah, that's perfectly okay. All right, cool. So we're punting that to next quarter. We'll make sure to pull that in. And that's good. Next up is the post 1.12 release task. So cutting the release of the sidecar containers is going to be one of the last things that we do. Updating the end-to-end test to pick up the latest versions of the sidecar depends on these releases being cut. Device plugin registration mechanism. There's some documentation that needs to be done. Any updates on that?
For the documentation?
Yeah.
No, I haven't gotten to that. Let me see, documentation. No, not. It's on my task of things to do before code freeze.
Okay.
I'm sorry, before.
That's okay. So we'll follow up on that next time.
Yeah.
And then we've got snapshots. Sheng, any updates on the snapshot side?
Yeah, so we're working on the blog. We're looking at your blog for
Awesome.
CSI as an example.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let me know when that's ready to review, and I can take a look at that.
Okay, sure. And then so we have not submitted yet, so we just work on a Google Doc right now, the blog post.
Yeah, that's perfect. Just put it in Google Doc, and then when it's ready, feel free to share it with me, and I'll review it, and then I'll pass it along to the correct folks for publishing.
Okay, and the other documentation, the first one that's merged, I think that one can be green, but
Nice.
Jean, I think she's going to take a look and see if we need to make any changes, because it's just a little weird, because this is the first time we're adding this information for something that is auto tree in there. So I think she's going to take a look just to see if there's anything needs to be added. So basically it just follows what was already there for PV and PVC, but we don't have any, we didn't add anything for deployment because there's no deployment information for CSI plugin in the stock. So we didn't add anything about deployment in the stock.
Okay.
It's basically just talking about the snapshot class, volume snapshot, and volume snapshot content.
Did we mention anywhere that these are CRDs, or you have to install external components?
Did not mention that. That's a part that's a little weird, because we're not sure what are the additional information I need to add there.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's worth calling out, that these components are part of, are going to be installed as external CRDs. In order to install them, you must run, you must have this external snapshotter, or you must run a CSI driver that supports this.
Okay.
CSI drivers that support this will be running this particular sidecar container.
Okay.
And you basically push it onto the, I guess it's 3 big points to capture. One is this is only supported with CSI.
Mm-hmm.
2 is CSI driver must support snapshots. And 3 is CSI drivers that support snapshots will have this external snapshotter.
Okay.
And I guess 4 is then this external snapshotter creates these objects as CRDs, not as first class, or not as core objects. So I guess 4 items.
Okay. Okay.
So if we could capture
Okay.
that, I think that would be
We
great.
can add that. Yeah. I think those people they are who are tracking the release because they they just keep saying, okay, this one needs to be ready. I think it's last Friday. It's supposed to be ready. So I think they got it merged very quickly.
Yeah. Okay, that's okay. We can revise, and even if it ends up getting out, we should revise after the fact. I think it's important to get the messaging out.
Sure. Good. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. Okay. Then the other one, we also have a doc under Kubernetes CSI docs.
Sorry, let me capture this real quick. So supported by CSI only. CSI only, was it specific drivers? Look for that have support for this. They will likely use external snapshotter. And then the third thing was the driver will drivers that support this will automatically install CRDs. 0 is objects CRDs. 4. Okay, and you can kind of word that better and make a story out of it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, this is very helpful. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, well, submit another PR. Yeah, this other one, so we have we do have this PR here. Basically, just added the information about snapshot on top of the other. I think there's already some documentation for other things. So like how do you deploy a host path plugin? So just use that example and added something for snapshot and how to create it. So we have those in here and how to enable the feature gate.
Okay.
Yeah. The only thing that is not that needs to be changed. That's the reason that I marked it as work in progress is because we don't have the official image yet.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, you can update that as soon as that official image is available.
Okay. So are you saying that we can merge this first, or should we wait?
Go ahead and merge it and put
okay.
We'll update or something with the official image once it's available or something like that.
Okay. Cool. Okay. We'll do that. Yeah.
Volume support. So enable dynamic provisioning of volume snapshot by creating a volume snapshot class as follows. So do we have like a driver-centric, hey, I want to add snapshots to my driver. How do I do it?
Oh, the section? We don't have that here. We're going to capture that in the blog too. So, but we can also add a section here. I was looking for, I should add those things.
Yeah.
So I haven't found out, I should add it, but I can definitely.
So, blog is good, but blog is should be a little bit more user-centric. It's good to mention the stuff about how to create the driver, but it should be a little bit more, how do I consume this? Why is it useful to me? That kind of thing.
Okay.
For writing CSI drivers, all that information should be captured under Kubernetes CSI. So maybe
I think I see 2 blogs, so that's why, because it's a blog that I can't really go modify other people's blog. I think we do have something. That's why maybe we need to just add another section there.
Yeah.
Just say how to implement snapshot feature in your CSI plugin.
Yep. Maybe create a subsection of number 3 here.
Okay. Number 3. Okay.
Deploying in Kubernetes, or you could add here. So you have deploying in Kubernetes. So you have the existing sidecar containers.
Okay.
Add one for the snapshotter, but maybe also have a section on snapshot. Just make it very clear. Like, I have no idea how to, add snapshots. I really want it as part of my driver. What do I need to do? And make it very clear. Say, hey, here's what you need to do. Modify your driver to expose this CSI service. and then, deploy it with this sidecar container. This sidecar container will do X, Y, and Z automatically for you, and everything will just work.
Okay, will do.
Cool. We want to make this as dead simple as possible for people.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for that, Xing. That looks great.
And
Anything
so
else?
so the E2E test, so we look at it, and I also talked to Patrick about this. So there is actually a problem because the in-tree E2E tests, they are actually using client to run those tests, but because our CRD is auto-tree, unless if we include those in the vendor, but I don't think that
So
will
what
be
I was thinking
allowed.
for these end-to-end tests was you use the
image, yes. But you do use the image. That part is, we can deploy it. We can deploy that. The problem is we cannot really go create snapshot. We cannot really do those because those commands are not they're not using like a command line. They actually use the client. So you actually do need to create those API objects to do those kind of things.
Right. So that's what I was thinking with the end-to-end test was like actually create a snapshot object.
Right.
Verify.
But then we will have to import external snapshot inside that place. But that is in tree, right? So I don't think that will create a circular dependency. I don't think they would allow us to do that, right? Basically,
I think we already do that with the external provisioner and
is it?
the attacher and the.
I don't think it's there. No, they're not there. This is the core Kubernetes repo.
Right. So
it does not have anything under Kubernetes CSI. I know that.
So I think the tests that I'm looking at are.
I'm looking at the wrong place.
Let me see. CSI volume plugin test. So that's the host path one. And then I think there's another one. Chang, do you know what the end-to-end tests are for CSI?
There's a host path one, and there's a GCPD one. I don't know why it's not showing up in test grid, but basically, I don't know. I don't remember if it actually depends on external provisioner, but it definitely just uses the image, as far as I know.
It is true, but if you look at how they create a PVC, it actually do use the API object. You have to use the API object. That's the problem.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's why I don't know. I don't think we can do that right now.
So the snapshot objects are inside the external snapshot repo?
Yeah. So unless we include that in the vendor, but then you have this.
You could use the dynamic client and just manually generate the object as a string. That's an option. So there's the generated kube client, which you said, I think you're right. You have the issue of I have to import that library.
Mm-hmm.
The library is external. That becomes a hassle. But when there's also a way to be able to create objects against the kube API by specifying just strings. Kind of like similar to the way that kubectl create -f works.
So that's a cube. Where do I search for that? A cube client?
Look for dynamic client, I believe. Ask somebody on API machinery about dynamic client.
Okay.
Tim Allclair knows a lot about this. He actually was the one who is showing me some code that he wrote recently for security that was creating a CR using a dynamic client. So he probably has code that he can share with you.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, I will
reach out to him and ask about that. That'll be sufficient to unblock you, I think.
Okay, great.
The reason I really want this is I think that's kind of what's going to differentiate this from just any off-the-shelf snapshotter is like, hey, this thing is part of core Kubernetes. Like we have CI that's running, we have end-to-end tests that are constantly running and verifying that this thing is working end-to-end.
Yeah, sure. Definitely, it's good to have it.
Cool. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, one more thing. So we do have a fix that we are making in the API object, it's an API group in this typed local object referencing. But I think, I don't know if we have already passed the deadline for 1.12 because they already cut beta.2 and then next Tuesday they're going to cut the RC.
I think the bug fixes can go in during this period. I think before RC is fine. After RC, I'm not sure.
Okay.
So the alpha beta is just like, hey, this is what we think it's going to look like, but changes keep getting added. So bug fixes keep getting added. Bug fixes are okay, and this is a bug fix.
Yeah, but it's not getting, or like yesterday after team approved it couldn't get merged automatically because it says you have to have some authorized people to.
Oh, interesting. What's
yeah,
PR?
But the things after that there are some new comments coming from Jordan. So right now actually I need to address this. But okay. Let me send you this.
Okay, yeah, just ping me once the comments are addressed, and I'll help.
Okay.
Get merged.
Okay. All right. Great. Thanks.
Thanks. All right. Next up is the workload information and attach required. We need documentation added for both of these. I don't think Hemant is on the line. I need to ping him to see if he can help with that. And then
I haven't seen him online in a while.
Yeah, I'll have to reach out to him offline. Let me see. Let's just do it now.
Oh, he just pinged me back on Slack. So.
Perfect. Maybe you could point him to this doc. Next up is CSI cluster registry. So Luis is working on the updates here. This is going to be a change to the driver registrar to be able to create these new objects.
I have a question regarding those new objects. What's going to be the way to update them to add when we want to add more functionalities?
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. So this is the version skew thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We did talk about that. I was just thinking in general, because I can already think of ways of we probably need a place to put information for the driver.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the preferred place to put them. So.
Yeah, I don't think we have an answer for that. I think whatever solution that we end up going with, we need to think through what the upgrade scenario looks like.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, we could discuss that offline.
Cool. All right, next up, we have new node status fields for CSI driver. Cheng has been working on updating the external provisioner and I believe the external attacher as well. Is that correct, Cheng?
I haven't looked at the attacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think Vlad was working on the external attacher, and there was potentially you guys were going to coordinate to figure out if you could split up work so that one of you works on the provisioner and the other works on the attacher. Did you guys get a chance to talk?
We didn't have a chance to sync, but yeah, I mean, that sounds good to me. For now, I'm mostly focusing on the external provisioner work.
Okay.
Make sure topology all works.
Cool.
Yeah, and what I want to focus on is whatever changes are for the inline, because that will change. I think the attacher. I can't remember which one.
Right. Yeah, it was the attacher. Okay, that makes sense. Let's prioritize getting this one in because we want to make sure that the feature works end to end. And the inline volume stuff, we're going to punt to next quarter. So we can do that after the release as kind of the first thing that we pick up again. Does that sound okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, sounds good.
Scratch that for now. And then we'll say Vlad's working on this part and Chang's working on this. And for the documentation updates, Chang, can I put that on you?
Sure, yeah.
Cool. And in terms of the external attacher update here, Vlad, it should be fairly straightforward. I think it's only these two steps. But I would say, sync up with Chang. He should be able to tell you exactly what needs to be done.
I'll do that. I'll put it on my task of things to do.
Awesome. All right, so I think that's all for the items that we're tracking post-code freeze. For miscellaneous items, I wanted to bring up this pull request that Chang created to fix issue with the host path end-to-end test. So we introduced the new CRDs, the CSI driver object and the CSI node info object. The CRDs are currently being installed as installed by the attach detach controller. And so this PR actually grants permissions to the attach detach controller to actually do the install. And Jordan is pushing back on this, saying that he's not comfortable with granting the attach detach controller permission to do CRD installation because he believes that this is not the right place for doing CRD installation. He wants something else, a new component to do that. I told him we were going to do that next quarter as kind of like a new project to figure out how CRD installation should happen. And he seems to be okay with that, but he still doesn't want to automatically grant the attach detach controller permission to create CRDs. He's suggesting basically, since this is an alpha feature, if somebody wants to use it, they'll have to manually go in and grant these permissions themselves. And I think that's okay, but I wanted to run it by you guys and see what you think.
Is there a way to? Is there a way to? How does a user go about granting additional roles for a system?
I guess he's saying not granting additional role, but installing the CRD themselves from manifest.
Oh, okay.
Okay. That, I mean, as an alpha feature, I think that's okay. You just got, you got to pay a price to even play with it.
Yeah.
But definitely something we need to figure out before beta.
Something else we can consider is having one of our sidecars do the installation.
Having what?
Having one of our sidecars do the installation of the CRD.
Oh.
But either way, actually, that's probably going to end up with the same issue. I think Jordan just doesn't want to push these permissions around.
Well, the permissions are going to be the sidecars are installed by the user on a core, so I think it's probably less of an issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other thing I just have to double check is inside the kubelet registration code, I got to make sure CRD, like we handle the CRD not install case gracefully, because right now we assume that if the flag is turned on, if the CSI node info flag is turned on,
right,
we assume as much as possible, basically, that the CRD is already installed. So I just need to double check that.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
But yeah, this is the same problem regardless, as long as it's installed out of tree.
Yep.
I mean,
So
we've had to do the same thing for the sidecars to set them up with permission. So this would be just an additional permission as part of the sidecar.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you're right.
So depending on which sidecar we decide to put this in, I guess it'll be part of that installation step. But the user wouldn't have to do that because it would already be the permissions. I guess configuration would already be part of the sidecar manifest.
Well, I think the permissions are installed in the default bootstrap policy inside Kubernetes, right? At least for external provisioner. I'm not sure about the attacher and things like that.
Yeah, I think the attacher and all those guys, they use pre-existing roles.
Okay.
Yeah, so we just got to make sure those roles are there.
Are you guys proposing having the sidecar containers do the installation?
I think that would be okay because we're already doing that. We're not doing installation, but we have pieces that needs permission, and we handle it via sidecars, and that seems to be okay. So
Yeah.
this would just be one additional component that the sidecar would for.
Yeah. The only problem with doing it in the sidecar is that we kind of lose control of it a little bit.
Yeah.
What's better, doing it in the sidecar or having the user manually do it?
So another issue I can think of with both ways is that if the CSI node info object is not installed, and the node drivers get deployed before the CRD gets installed, then we will just miss the driver installation event entirely, because we detect driver installation based on the edge, and if we can't install the node information, then at that time, then we just miss it.
That is an excellent
You'd probably be looking for it right away. But this issue sounds like it's something that's bigger than SIG storage. As far as initializing CRDs.
You see,
I totally agree.
SIG architecture on there as well. But the problem that you pointed out, Chang, that's going to apply even without this, right? Because inherently the system is operating asynchronously. So you could have the CRD installed at some later point than when the driver shows up. So we should handle that somehow.
Right. I mean, for originally I was thinking for alpha, if the installation happens in the attach-detach controller, chances are the user is probably going to start up the cluster before they install the driver.
Right.
So it's usually okay. But yeah, I mean, for beta, I would really like to have some sort of queue inside the registration mechanism. It'll solve a lot of problems, and I have a laundry list of them.
Okay. What would the queue look like?
It will probably just queue up events, and maybe I'm not too sure. We can maybe spawn a Go routine.
Basically, keep retrying if we can't find the object.
Yeah, basically, if we process one item in the queue, one of the events, and it fails, we just put it back in the queue, and then we just keep on pulling off the queue while it's not empty.
Interesting. Because the problem is that we're waiting for the CRD object to exist. If it doesn't exist, we don't create it. Mm-hmm. And okay, let's track that as an item for next quarter.
Yep, I will.
overall, I think I don't want to pollute more code by moving the installation code around right now. The feature is alpha. It's going to be disabled by default on all clusters. If users want to opt into this behavior, there's basically two pieces of functionality that they want to play with. One is local ephemeral volumes, and two is topology. And if they want to play with either of these features, they need to enable these alpha features. And in enabling these alpha features, they should also create the CRD objects first, since they're going to kind of have to manually do this anyway. And we can put in our documentation, hey, this is what you need to do for each one of these features. Document that you need to basically give them the manifest that they need to deploy for the CRD to create the CRD, and then they create the CRD. And then when we move to beta next quarter, then we can have a robust installation mechanism for the CRD, and then we don't have to worry about this manual install process. But we also need to look at what Chang mentioned, which is registration can happen asynchronously, and the CRD object may not be ready, and we need to be able to handle that.
Yeah, I mean, oh, go ahead.
No, what I was going to point out is if the object is not ready, depending on where that call is done, you could just return an error, and hopefully the controller will try back, right?
So right now there is no controller continuously running for a plugin registration.
I see. Oh, this is plugin registration.
Yeah. Yeah, like we have a similar issue for unregistration too. Like we have to make sure, well, not really a similar issue, but we would probably piggyback on the same solution. Basically, plugin registration allows event handlers to run in parallel right now. So we could totally get one registration event and an unregistration event like right next to each other, and they could have a race condition. So we want to, in our handling logic, we want to serialize that somehow.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess the action item here for you, Chang, is when you do the documentation for topology in Kubernetes CSI, mention that you need to create the CRD object manually and why, and mention that it's alpha, and that when we move to beta, this is no longer going to be a requirement.
Yep, and I'll track it. I have an open issue for a list of plugin registration updates that we need to do for beta, and I'll add this in as well.
Cool. So then when we do the planning for next quarter, you can pull that out, and we can use that as one of the items that we need to worry about.
Yep, and another action item for me is to double check the current registration logic to make sure we handle missing. Actually, it should be okay. Missing CRDs gracefully.
I think we handled that already, but worth double checking.
Yeah, it was related to that issue number 2 from the PR, but I think we handle it. We just unregister.
Okay. Cool. We can follow up with that offline, and I think that's all that I have for today. Anything else?
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to bring up was I was stuck in dependency hell essentially for external provisioning. I don't have a good understanding of depth, and I was talking to Xing as well. I think my problem is pretty similar to hers. A lot of it seems like I don't understand the mechanism well enough to say for sure, but it seems like it has to do with the external provisioner not having releases, and like we're pointing to master right now, and right now basically we have to update the dependency version inside external storage for Kubernetes to like 112 alpha 0 or alpha 1 or something like, or beta 1 or something like that. And it would be a lot nicer if we have releases cut for external storage that syncs up with the Kubernetes version. And I think it would be a lot easier.
So the the storage portion is forcing you to get the latest Kubernetes?
It's forcing me to get an earlier version, actually, because it's depending on
an earlier version.
So like I think one of the client Go APIs changed, and it was a breaking change. And yeah, external storage hasn't been updated to use the latest one yet. So
I see.
Yeah, again, I want to spend some time asking, like, trying to see if there's depth experts to confirm that this is the actual issue.
Yeah.
Before,
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. No, this is a huge issue. Thank you for bringing it up. I think it highlights that we really need to have a separate repo and releases for external storage. This was actually one of the issues that was raised when we were trying to figure out how we're going to handle this in-tree code having CRDs that are created, because the API is dependent on not just by the in-tree code, but also by these external sidecar containers. And it has an implicit dependency on API machinery and other components in our external code, like the external provisioner, also have dependency on API machinery. So you can't have these two different branches end up with different versions of API machinery. That causes the build system to blow up. So we need to somehow ensure that the version of API machinery that's referenced by CSI API and this external storage provisioner code is identical. The challenge, as I understand it, is that the external storage doesn't do any releases. Everybody kind of just points at head, which is really bad. We had an action item a few months ago to pull that out into a separate repo. I think we need to accelerate that. Maybe, Chang, you can ping Brad offline to say, hey, we need this done like now in order to solve this issue.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay, I'll also CC him here. All right, cool. Good stuff. Thank you for the update. Anything else?
If you can take another look at that PR for me, the API change for the inline volume.
Yes, sure.
You looked at it. Yeah, I'll ping it to you.
Yeah, please.
So you don't have to look for it.
Perfect.
Because if I can close that off soon, it'll allow me to continue with the entry implementation of inline.
Cool. Sounds good. Yeah, I'll take a look at that. Just ping me on Slack, and if I don't respond, just ping me again. All right.
Nah, no problem. Sure.
All right, then thank you very much. We'll reconvene on Friday, and hopefully we have a little bit more progress by then. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.